What you will be seeing throughout this video is the area in which John Reeves had witnessed the UFO, which is now a High Point community and Marker 48 brewing. So it's rather commercial and more of a community now based environment, where before it was more forestry. March 2nd, 1965, the John Reeves Incident, when he claimed that he witnessed a UFO land near his Brooksville, Florida home. He also made extraordinary claims that he was afterward transported to the planet Monahay aboard an alien spacecraft. John Reeves, 66, at the time was a man so obscure that he was unknown to the majority of inhabitants in his remote area where he lived until he had encountered with a UFO and its occupants. Reeves had been traveling through the shrublands early in the afternoon when he noticed a large flying saucer perched in an open clearing atop a sandhill. It was a reddish purple and bluish and green in color, stood 6 foot tall, and had a diameter of 20 to 30 feet. Reeves crept up to within 100 feet of the craft before crawling into dense shrubs to observe it more closely. He suddenly noticed something moving on the object's far side and headed in its direction. A robot wearing a glass dome or space helmet observed Reeves and approached him within 15 feet. Though Reeves insisted on labeling the figure a robot because everything that isn't human has to be a robot, he depicted an essentially human-like entity with a darkly tanned face standing 5 foot tall and dressed in a silver gray canvas material. It had thin white gloves and metallic looking boots on its hands and feet. Its eyes were slightly wider apart, closer to the ears, and its chin slightly more pointed up than a regular person's. And it wore a skull cap and wore a cylinder on its back. After a minute and a half of observation, it reached to its left side and produced a spherical black item with a diameter of 6 to 7 inches. It brought the device up to its chin and it flashed twice. Reeves attempted to flee but slipped and fell back into a sitting position facing the person, who flashed the round device at him once more. Reeves assumed the figure was photographing him. The figure walked toward the object. At this point, Reeves could see a short spiral stairway compromised of circular stairs beneath the vessel. The being ascended these stairs and entered the ship.
Reeves explained to the NICAP investigators, or the NICAP, numerous little blades around the saucer's rim began to move in tandem, much like the slats of a Venetian blind. They remained open and closed. The rim then began to rotate counterclockwise. It generated a whooshing and rumbling sound as it increased the pace at which it spun. The staircase was lowered into the room. Then with the whooshing sound, the 4 stilts of legs retracted and the saucer rose straight up. I kept an eye on it, and it vanished from view in less than 10 seconds in the cloudless sky. Reeves discovered a significant number of footprints in the clearing where the UFO had landed, circular at the heel and toe sections, but thin in the arch. 4 landing gear holes stood in a square area, randomly placed within a 10-foot radius of one another. Each hole was 4 inches broad and 4 inches deep and was cup-shaped. Reeves saw a bundle of loosely folded paper in the square's center. It included, he explained, 2 sheets of extremely tough but flimsy tissue. Both were covered in very weird Chinese-looking letters or marks.
The outcome of the event led to an investigation. First Lieutenant Edward R. Goettel and 3 enlisted men landed in Brooksville, Florida from MacDill Air Force Base early on the 3rd. They met at Johnson's radio station where they met Reeves and Johnson. After an hour of interviewing the witness, they drove him to the location of the encounter, chatted with him further, and photographed the markings, prints, and paper. Lieutenant Goettel noted later that day in his official report, "The paper Mr. Reeves claims he discovered at the landing location looks similar to silk span paper used to construct model aeroplanes." The officer deemed Reeves' reliability doubtful. In any event, Reeves had voluntarily turned over the paper for analysis, which presumably would resolve the question of whether or not he had encountered something unearthly. Around 4 p.m., the Air Force Base soldiers returned Reeves to the radio station. By this point, reporters from Tampa, St. Petersburg, and other cities had gathered. Reeves fielded questions until deep into the evening, with Johnson serving as a sort of hybrid agent protector. Thursday morning saw an influx of media and curious onlookers. By dusk, the hundreds of onlookers had destroyed the majority of the site's supposed robot tracks. What little left was washed away in the night's rain. Throughout the weekend, the circus continued despite the fanfare. A number of those going to Brooksville did so for a serious reason. On Saturday, March 6th, investigators from the Air Force and NICAP came separately.